Alright, so what we're gonna build today is a tic-tac-toe game. So we start a new game, and so we can begin playing. So you play O, and we have to press enter, and then we say X. For the other player would play X, and then you would play O and enter, and the other player would be like, wow, where should I play? To play X, and then enter. Say, oh wow, are we gonna win? We have a winner. 0 wins, right? So this is what we're gonna do today. We kind of style it nice. Well, nicer than expected. So yeah, so we're gonna show you how to build this game. Let's try it again. If you try to play if you try to play when it's not, you can't play twice, right? So right now O or 0 is supposed to play, so you can't play twice. And we go with X, and we should get it in the diagonal there. X wins. Alright, and then you can start a new game. So I'm going to show you how we build this. Alright, so we have our template. We can see that we have tic-tac-toe is the name of the project. Play is the name of the file that we're going to use. And we have our template here, so we just added in that HTML. So we're going to name the title TIC TAC, and we're going to give it the H3 header of TIC TAC game, so we can test this to see how we're doing. So we're on our way to building our project. Alright, so the next thing we need to focus on is building the layout. So the layout is basically going to be a table. So we're going to create a table element, and that table element is going to have a bunch of selects in it. Tic-tac-toe layout is 3 by 3, so we need 3 columns and 3 rows. So TR is a column and TD is a row, so we need 3 of these. And well, we're just going to do 1 for now. We're just going to make sure our table looks good. We can't see anything because we don't have any styling on our table. So we probably should put some styling now. Yeah. Alright, so let's put some styling. Let's give it a class. We're going to give our table a class of table, TCT, which stands for tic-tac-toe. Table, that's the name of our class. I spelled that wrong. I have to fix that. So TCT table, and we're going to say that we wanted the border to be collapsed. And yeah, we're going to leave it like that for now. That should be fine. TCT table. I wonder if that will make any difference. So now I'm going to test and make sure my table is actually being displayed, because I ain't seen anything. But my table is there, man. Alright, cool. So in every table, all we need is a select element, and that select element is going to have 3 options. The first option is going to be called select or play, as the case may be. I'm double checking to see what I have. Alright, so this first option is going to be select, so you have to, or you could call it choose play or something like that. The other option is going to be 0 or X. 0 wins. It's XO. What's a O? Right, it's a O, right, so that's going to be it. 0 and O. So we have one here, 0 and O, right? It looks better than the one we originally have. So basically what we can do is copy this and put it in the rest of our, it's in the rest of rows. So we have our first row, right? So our game is getting there. So we need to finish the layout. Alright, so I gave my table a border of 1, which is what I was trying to do earlier. So now we kind of have a border going on our table. So we have 1 row, so we need 3 more rows. So what we could do is just copy this. But if you notice right away, I don't plan to be building out all the rows, but this is just the template that we're going to be working with. So this is basically the game here. We have 0, you have X, you have 0, you have X. So as you can see, our game is on the way already. So the other thing we would need to do now is we need to display these things dynamically, because the values would change based on different conditions. So what we actually want to do is create a loop and display these inputs as the case may be. So let's get into that now. So our job is to create a function that can generate the specific row, or what do you call it, the board, or the specific board. Well, it could generate the whole board, but we want to generate this thing right here. Let me show you this. I don't know what you call it, a block or something, a tile. So actually, let's create tile. Tile sounds like a good thing. So we can create a tile, and how we're going to do this is basically all we're doing is creating a 0 for output. Basically all we're doing is creating an output and select elements. So select, and actually we can leave it like that for now. I'm just going to put everything in option there. This will not be the case. And then return O. So that's like a first step, create tile. And then within this we can just echo create tile. So this is actually pretty good. It kind of saves us a lot of trouble. So we have our tile created there, and then we can pass things to the function and do different things that we want with it. Alright, so let's see if that works. Yes, so our tile is being created. So now let's focus on the board. So our board is going to be an array of values, and those values are going to represent the different states of the different tiles. So 3 is going to be select. So the game hasn't started yet, or the game has officially started and no one has played, and that's going to be 3. So we have a multi-dimensional array. At least I think that's what that is. And we just align it to represent each tile on the tic-tac-toe board. Alright, so what we could do now is you could for loop through this board. So instead of going through all of this drama, we can actually delete this, and we could for loop through the board and create a row. So let's create our for loop. PHP for each board, as each one of these represents a row. Right? We're going to end our for loop here, and this should actually just give us end for each. Right? So this should actually give us, as you can see, it's being displayed already, right? So we are literally dynamically rendering our board right now, and the next thing we need to focus on is each tile. So we're going to say for each row as tile, and we're going to close it the same way we closed it before. So this should actually allow us to render the individual tiles, so we can delete the unnecessary items here. Fantastic. This should be a for each. So this is exactly what we want. Give it a little proper spacing. Let's see if it works. So again, it shows up the same way because it is working. So now that we get in a tile, what we want is the value in the tile. So I think we can actually just pass in tile, which is the value. So remember, we have the tiles here, right? So 3, 3, 3. Each of this value represents what the value of the tile is. So in the case if it's 0, we say it's O. And in case that it's 1, we say that it's X. That's how we're going to display it. So right now we pass in the tile. And we have to do some logic here. So we're going to build our dynamic tile to take in value of the tile, and now we are going to dynamically create our select element, and the value is going to change based on the value of the tile. So let's begin. The first option is select. The second option is O. And the third option is X. So this is great. And then what we say in if value is equal to, so if value is equal to 1, let's start with 0. If value is equal to 0, let's see, we have some chaos going on here. Right, so we need to close out our output. Right, so if we're saying, what we were saying is if value is equal to 0, then we want our option to be selected. Otherwise, our option is as it was before. So if value is equal to 0, we want this to be selected. So we want selected to be true. And we're doing the same thing with X. If value is equal to 1, then we want our option to be selected for X. Otherwise, the option remains the same. So that's what we're doing here. So we say selected is equal to selected, and we're great to go. Otherwise, we return 0. So let's see how that looks. Let's check our everything seems to be good there, but in this case what we're supposed to be able to do is set 1, 0 and 3, and then those values should appear to be selected when we reload our board. So as you can see, that was going on there. So we can change the individual values of our tiles and get it to display accordingly. So our win condition in this instance, I mean, we have more 1s and 0s, but just for an example, right now we're going to display a win condition. So right now X is a winner, and then we can see we have 0s here as well. So this is great. We get it somewhere. In TIC TAC 2, after you select a value and you submit it, you are not allowed to change it until you start a new game. So we're now going to implement that logic. So what that means is that our select element should be disabled in the case that we have a value. So if there's no value, so right, so let's check it out. If value is equal to, if it's equal to 0 or value is equal to 1, selected should actually be disabled. Otherwise, it should remain as is. So we're going to create an O up here, since we're going to make some changes, and then select would also be joining it, concatenating, right? So that's what that dot equal means. If I never explained it before, dot equal is the concatenated string. So if it is selected, if there's a value for either right, so if there's a value for the tile, as in if it's not 3, we could also do that. If value is not 3, then we want the select to be disabled. Otherwise, it should be as is. So as you can see, our things that are selected are disabled, and we could only select 1. So this is great. and we're going to do something else here. So we're going to submit the form now. So right now it's just a table. So we're going to wrap this table within a form, and then we're going to give all these select elements a name. The name should be unique because we want to identify every select element. That is not necessarily required, but it would be necessary. Is that the same thing? What's the difference between required and necessary? Anyway, so request method is equal to post. As long as it's equal to post, and the input that we're looking for is play. So our button is going to be named play. So this is how we know we're going to submit the form. So we're going to put a button here and we're going to name it play or and turn, which is what we're actually going to be doing. But anyway, let me give it a name of play. Right. And we just want to see what it is. So var dump post. You just want to see what's going on there. Exit. So right now we haven't given it a unique value as yet. So let's just say enter. And that's very interesting. So I know what's going on. I'll explain it to you later. Well, I'll tell you now. So because we have it as disabled, no values are being submitted, which is not good. So let's say nothing was disabled, and we were to select some values. We should be able to see the values that we selected, and that is not happening. Alright, so let's give it a name. I'm going to give it a name of row. But again, this needs to be unique, because I believe we'll encounter that problem before. So we're going to do a few things. First, we're going to give everyone a unique ID. So we're going to say count is equal to 0, and then we're going to increment the count at the end of each for loop. If you didn't know you could do that, that's possible. So the count starts here, it increments here. Oops, it's being incremented in the wrong place. No. It's for every row. So yeah, I believe it's being incremented in the right place. And then we just need to add the count here. So the count is kind of like the ID, and we want the count to start from 1. And the reason we're doing this is only because we need to give the row or the select element a special name, and that name is going to be based on the ID. Again, there might be a better way to do this. You can always let me know. I'm happy for suggestions. Alright, so now we have a name, and that should actually take care of the fact that it's not being posted. We could check to see if this is happening in the HTML. So we have row 1, and the rows at the bottom should be row 9, which is fantastic. And we want to see if any of this is being posted. This is great. So everything is being posted. This is exactly what you wanted to see. And we can change the value to X and O as the case may be, and that should change. So that is great. So row 1, row 2, row 5. So yeah, in the case that what we want is to always have access to the board, so that what we're doing here, right, we have a hidden input, and this allows us when we submit the form, we have access to the board, or should I say we have access to the current board. So what we're going to do is we would submit the values, we would update the board, and then we would save it here. So this is kind of like our cache or our database, or however you want to phrase it, but that is how we get to save changes being made. We first output the current board, we make changes to it, and then we save it. Although I'm seeing nothing happening here, which is not good. Oh, we should have echo JSON encode, right? So that allows us to output the array, and then we can get back the array when we post in the values. You can see 3333333. So when we post in values, we can get back the board simply by doing board is equal to I set post board. So this will give us the current value of the board, and we can then update this board and send it back out, right? See, if we don't do this, the current value of the board will always be this, right? So that's not what we want. We want whatever the current of the value of the board to be is what we're going to be working with. So that's kind of like our history going on there. All right, so that's one thing. We can test it out just to make sure we have no errors. We're still exiting, so let's stop that. We're going to do now one is something we did when we was creating our calculator, is we're going to loop through all the post variables. So we're going to loop through posts, and we're going to say as key value and we're going to take out the ones we don't want. So if we say we could do it like not an array. So not an array. I think this is not how I did it. Needle. What is the needle? What are we looking for? And the haystack is the array. So if key, which is the needle, is not in, and we gonna create an array. If key is not in board. So if the key isn't board, we could proceed. I believe I'm doing that correct. I can, however, be wrong. So we'll double check. If key is equal to X or O, and then we say else if key is equal to X, else, right? And what we're going to do here, we're going to have a response array, and this is going to take all our responses, and then we're going to have a row array, and this is going to take all of our responses as well. Array, is that how I spell that? So to explain, well, I'll just show you. So if it's equal to 0, you say row array, and we give it the value that it represents. So 0 represents 0, and X represents 1, and if it doesn't have anything, that means it's 3. And now we can see. So we check in to see we add in the arrays row by row, right? And a row has 3 values in them. So what we need now is a counter. And you're gonna understand when I'm finished. And then we're gonna increment our counter. If we actually doing anything. Doesn't matter though. No. So we need to take it out of the if, because we're going to increment all the time. And what we're going to say here, we're going to say if counter is modulus 3 equal to 0, you're going to say response equal to row array, and then row array is equal to empty. And then what we can do here, now that we have our new responses, is that we can update the board and make the board equal to responses. And what we want it to be is responses and not response, so we're just going to make that change here. And let's see if that works. Again, I'll explain everything after, but we're just going to do a simple test. And this is now working. So if it's not equal to board, do we have anything else in it? Let's var our post values. We want to see what's being posted. Also, that could be my in array given trouble. Row play. So let's add play here. I'm going to explain this as I said, but we're just doing our testing to see if it works at all. It is not working. Alright, 1 second. So far the mistake we made was while key is fine for this because this indicates the key, value is what you actually should be checking against. So I am just gonna see if that works. So value is what we should actually be checking against. I have a var dump here, so I need to remove that. So we're just checking against the key, and that shouldn't work. Alright, so now we're checking against the value, and while it doesn't work as expected, you see one works, the other gives some problems, but we're kind of halfway there. I'm not sure why my board is behaving like that. Maybe we can see what's going on. Oh, actually I know what's going on, so I'll fix that. 0 1 0 3 3 3 3 3. All right, so let's explain. So we're going through all the post data right now. Let's look at the post data. Alright, so while I pretend to do this from the top of my head, what I just did was great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of do a pretty print kind of thing here. So it allows us to see the array values better. So that should do it, and then we exit. So let's test this. So now what we're looking at, right? So we've seen board, we have some values for board, we have some values for row, and then the rest is select. And then we have play. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to loop through these values. And this is the key, and this is the value. Alright? So when we say, let's remove the exits here. So we're looping through all those values that we show you here, and the key and the value. So again, based on the example, this is the key. Board, row 1, row 1, row 1, row 2, row 3, and these are the values. So we say if it's not an array, so what we don't want to count is the things that aren't rows. So we could actually just check for rows only, or keys with row in them, or we exclude these. So we say we don't want board and we don't want place. So that's what we do here using the inArray function, and then we just checking for value. So if value is equal to 0, and if value is equal to x, otherwise value is equal to 3. So that is basically what we did there. And finally, we have a counter checking the state that we're in, right? So remember, a board has 3 tiles and 3 rows. So we're checking for the end of a row count. So that is where this comes into play. Alright, so the long and short of this is the modulus operator, and basically what this says is on the third row, we're gonna set any values that we have in row array to the responses array, and then we're gonna clear the row array. So on the third row, that means we get 3 values, and that means we are creating our board again. So 0, 1, 2, this is the third row. Whatever was in row array, we put it in responses, and we clear row array. Again, you can check into what the modulus operator does some more in details. Alright, so now you can have an understanding what's going on. One of the reasons why it's not working is because, let's clearly pretty print. What happens is once your select is disabled, it no longer shows what the value is. So once you disable a select, you no longer have access to the value. So what we need to do now is we need to create a hidden input that would mimic the select element. So that's what we're going to do now. Alright, so let's begin by creating our select element. We probably can name it input. No, we have to name it input because that's what it is. Anyway, so input, type of this is hidden. The name is what the name is. So we already have name. So we're going to give it the same name because that one is hidden, right? And we probably could take out this name because we're not using this. Just in case, it shouldn't matter, but just in case there's confusions. And finally, it needs a value. So let's give it a value, and that value is going to be, so this is what needs to change. So we need to get the actual value, right? And I think we could do this. So if value, no, we're going to attempt to do the shorthand thing. If value is equal to 0, then else if value is equal to 1, then x. I'm not sure if this could work, and since I'm confusing myself, we're gonna do it the long way. So we're gonna set value to null. Oh, and we're doing it wrong too as well. So say real value is equal to null. And let's do it the hard way. So if value is equal to 0, the real value is equal to O. Else if value, this would be so much better shorthand though, is equal to 1, is equal to x, else the real value is equal to how much space it takes up just for that simple piece of logic. I don't like it. Alright, anyway, so now we have the real value, and this should actually solve the problems that I was explaining, and maybe you didn't understand it. Let's close pretty print, close some of the tabs. So let's see if we have any success here. We have some outputs going on somewhere. Alright, so we say end10. Alright, so before, right, what was happening is, I think it's still happening. Nope. So before, what was happening is that because once you disable select, and I explained this before, once you disable a select, you cannot get access to the value that was within the select. So now we just create a hidden input to take care of that problem, and we just needed to create a real value variable to convert the number to whatever the value is supposed to be. Again, I think there's a better way to do that. You could always tell me if my solution is too simple. Alright, so this is halfway of the game right here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start creating the rules. One of the first rules is that you probably should not be allowed to play twice. So we're going to look into that. And then we have to do the logic of how we detect any wins. Because you need to check to see, because we don't know what changed in our responses, we're going to have to check to see that. So we're going to create some logic here. I'm going to create an array called changes. And the purpose of this array is to check to see any changes that was made in our responses. Because again, we don't know what the player actually played. We have no idea. So we are going to check for it using this array. So we save the board as key value. So we're going through the rows in the board. And now we're seeing if value is equal to response. Value is not equal to response. And key, that means some changes were made. We add the changes that was made to the response array. Not to, but to the changes array. And then we can dump this to see what we get. So again, we look through the board and we check for the board to see, we check within the board rows to see if the value that is within the board changes from the responses. So that's what we're doing here. And now we're just going to test that to see. So we should be able to see any changes that were made. Right now it's saying no changes was made. And now it's saying no changes was made again. Alright, so let's I see we have a problem with select as well. I'm just going to check for that problem. When I put a number here, it seems to disappear. Nope. Could be in my head. Alright. So board is equal to responses. That has to happen after. So we can actually check what's going on. Closing some tabs. Alright, so 0 count must be an array. Countable. Yeah. Count board. So JSON encode. That's interesting. That explains a lot. Anyway, so this should be JSON decode, because we're decoding the values. And now we go in. Alright, so 0 is the one that was changed. And then we have x change, and the value of x is usually 1. The value of x is usually 1. Right now it's saying 2 changes. I know that error happens. I don't know why that error happens. I have to look into that. Anyway, so if we submitted 2 things, we should get 2 things in the array. But right now we have 3. For some reason, maybe we should empty changes. Right now we have 2. I have a little error that I need to fix. It's showing up its head now and then. So you're gonna have to look into that. But basically you get the point, right? So any changes that were made is being added to the changes array. And what we could do is something really simple. We can say if the count of changes is greater than 1, we can say echo. Can't play twice, right? You're not supposed to be able to play twice. So we can say that. And then in that case, you won't update the board with the responses, so that no changes would be saved. So let's just reload the page and we say 0. This is great, X. But if you try to play twice and submit 2 values, say can't play twice, and that would be invalidated. Okay, this is our error here. I wonder where that is coming from. Let's look into the HTML to see what's going on. Maybe you have a duplicated row somewhere. Row 2, row 1. See, we don't have a value here. We should have a value here for row 2. So I think X is giving some problems. So real value. If value is equal to 0. X is giving some problems. Because it should have a value here and it doesn't. So that's a problem. We need to look into that to see what is actually causing an issue. Problem would stem from here, but I'm not seeing anything wrong. The thing about PHP, sometimes the most obvious error is the hard to spot. Check this out. I have 2 equal signs. These should be assignment operators. That has been giving me so many problems trying to figure that out. Alright, that solves our problem there. That was very confusing. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to what I was doing. I was spending some time troubleshooting there, trying to figure out exactly what stupidness I did. But that's resolved now, so I can uncomment what I commented, and we can pick back up where we left off, right? So what we're doing, we were checking to make sure we can't play twice. We had some weird errors and we just had to fix those, and we are back in the game. So right now it should be working as expected, and the only thing here is that we can't play twice, which means we can't submit 2 values at the same time. So we could only submit 1 value. So this is great. And now we just need to make sure that the correct player plays. So 0 played first, 0x, O, 1x. If O or 0, if O plays first, X has to play second. And if X was the last play, 0 is the other player, right? So that is the logic we're gonna add now. So you're gonna say last is equal to null, right? So that's the last play. We can call it last P. So we are getting the last P, and how do we assign the last P? So as long as changes is not greater than 0, we can say last value is equal to changes 0, right? Because in truth only one person should have been the player. Yeah, so you can't play twice, or you can't play more than once. You can't play more than once is actually the correct message. You can't play more than once. We also have to do another check to make sure that you can't play twice, which is what we're actually doing now. And that check, because we now have a last, we're saying if last is not equal to null, that means we know that's the first player, and last is equal to changes 0, which, so if the last play is equal to the current play, then you have to say echo you can't play twice, right? So if the last play R is equal to the current play, it's saying you can't play twice. Alright, so the only thing we need to do now is we need another hidden input, and we're gonna call that last as well. We're gonna make sure we have access to it when we submit it. Yeah, we're just going to put last in the value. So it could be null or as the case may be. And then we want to get last here. Otherwise, it is null. Great. So we could actually check for this now to see what's going on. So enter. This is great. Not great. Don't know what's going on there. Another error. Sometimes it could be the browser, but nope. We really have an error. Oh, so because we have a new input, so we now have to exclude that input from being counted. When I was actually doing this, I had so many issues with that. I was confused for a second. But yeah, so once we add new inputs, remember we have to exclude them out from our row count. All right. So yeah, we figured that one fast because I had so many issues. Anyway, so 0 and x. Now if you try to play x again, we should get an error. You can't play twice. All right. So you're not allowed to play twice. The player must be different. You can't play twice. You cannot play twice. The player must be different. So we could do the same thing for 0. If we try to play 0 twice, we say you can't play twice. So it must be x. So this is great. Also, you cannot answer more than once. You cannot play more than once, or answer as the case may be. You cannot play more than once. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, so this is great. This is great. This is great. Now, to be honest, that is it for us there. Alright. So you thought. Anyway, we are really completed. So this is the moment everyone has been waiting for. We are now going to check for the winner. We're going to create a function called check for winner, or winner check. Function check winner. That's going to take in some values, and we're just going to return it false. Alright, so we have a lot of else's, so let's add another one. Else if check for winner. If check for winner, we say we have a winner. We have a winner. And then we just need to detect who the winner is. Alright. Echo. The winner is, and the winner would be the last player, right? So we're doing this. So that's for the winners. Otherwise, we continue as normal. So we're just making sure that doesn't interfere with anything we have. And now we just need to add the logic to detect a winner. So this actually confused me for a while. So I did some research, and the logic we came up with, I mean, you could hard code it if you want, but what we're doing now is we're going to create an array called win conditions, and this array is going to give us all the conditions possible for winning. I'm just going to copy it across. So these win conditions are all the conditions possible for winning. So we are going to pull out our whiteboard, and we're going to show you exactly what we're doing here. So we have our tic-tac-toe board. And the values could be 0 or 1 as the case may be. But we're just going to put 3. This is, nothing is selected here. So in array terms, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. So when we look at our win conditions, our first win condition is 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, and 0, 2. And that would be 0, 0, 0, 0, and then 0, 1, 0, 1, and then 0, 2. So that's our first win condition, which is basically just this. And that is basically what this looks like. So we have this going straight down. So the last win condition we have is 0, 2. So 0, 2, which is this one. I think this is going across 1, 1, 1, 1. So this is actually so 0, 2 is this guy here, 1, 1. So this is probably going across, and 2, 0. So 2, 0. So this is the last win condition we have is this one. So we have an array of win conditions, and basically all we're going to do is loop through all the conditions. We're going to see if we find anything, and if we do find anything, we can proceed. So the first thing you're going to say is there's a better way, and I'm going to say, yeah, most likely. Isn't there always? Alright, so this is what we did. We have a empty array there. This is our matches, and now we're gonna check to see, or we're gonna loop through our conditions. There's probably a better way and stuff like that. Alright, so right now we're looping through our conditions, and now we're gonna loop through the rows in our conditions. And we are gonna get the exact values from them. What's going on here? So we wanna get the X value and the Y value. Again, this is, remember, this is kind of like a grid. Do we need to go back to the Y? Oh, it is a grid actually, right? So X and Y values, right? So that's what we're doing here. So we get the X and Y values, and now we're gonna check. We're gonna say if response X, Y is not equal to 3, which means we are not doing that condition, and if X LR is equal to, I think LR means last response, right? So if it's equal to null, we are assuming that we didn't begin checking anything, so we can add a match. So if it's equal to null, we add our first match. We go whiteboard with this as well. Also, if it's equal to the last response, we add a match. And then we save the last response to the, because of how many times we have to do this, we probably should have saved this X, Y. Great. Alright, well, what's the case if that's not so? If that's not true? Last response is back to being null, and the matches is back to being empty. Because anytime we don't get a match, and we continue. Alright, so that's fantastic. So now what we need to do is we need to count our matches, and we're looking for 3 because that's so if we have 3 matches, and then we're seeing if this is double checking. Because counting 3 matches should already be good, but we're going to double check. If they are equal to each other, yeah. So if they're equal to each other, return true. However, if they're not equal to each other, we say this is empty. LR is equal to null, and we can begin again. All in all, if we don't get what we want, we return false. So what we pass in is conditions and response. Well, it should be responses. So we're going to check for wins, we're going to check for win conditions, and we're going to pass in our responses. Yeah, that should actually do it. So Well, nobody went in here, right? I probably could put X there. We can't play more than one, so it's actually 0 to play. That shouldn't be the case. Who is to play X? There we go. And then 0 plays here. And X plays here. And 0 plays here. The winner is 0. Alright, so as you can see, we are good to go. So just to go through the check winner function again, LR means last response. Matches is any matches, anything that we find that's equal to the previous response. Alright, so we loop into our conditions array and we getting the coordinates, so the X and Y, and we putting that back into the response to check to see if it's not equal to 3, right? Because if it's equal to 3, it doesn't have a response. Great. So as long as it's not equal to 3, it has a response. We're saying 1. If the last response is equal to the current response, or LR is equal to null, and that would mean that we haven't no matches as yet. Anyway, so this is the 2 match conditions. So we add a match, and we put the last response is equal to the current match that we found. We do this as many times as we need to. In any case, if these conditions don't match up, we set back the last response to null and we set the matches as to being empty. If we end up with 3 matches, we just double check to make sure all those matches are the same and we return true. Otherwise, we set matches to be empty and LR to be null, and we continue again. And that is how we have our win conditions. So we are complete. The thing about win conditions is, well, yeah, so all our win conditions should be calculated. As you can see, we have an error, which is something I didn't want to see. I was hoping everything was perfect. Alright, so we have an error because this win condition is not being calculated. More silly errors. Alright, so I have this set to be equal to null, so that was creating a lot of issues. So I fixed that, and so I also added an additional case here. So if the matches are false, you set it to null, and if the count is not equal to 3, you also set it to null. Alright, so I made those 2 changes and we are working again. Ooh, yeah, I really don't know what happened there. Alright, so all of our conditions should be working. The logic is actually pretty solid, and before X wasn't working at all, but that's because I had an issue there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna set a message variable, and this is how we're gonna define our messages. So all the messages that we have when we have errors, we're just gonna add it to that. So that we can output our messages, right? So the winner should actually be X or O. So I think I have 1 or 0. So I'm just gonna fix that. If X is equal to 1, if X is equal to 0, then the winner should be 0. Else we just assume it will be 1, right? Because the winner could either be 0 or 1. It's a 0, right? And we can add another message here. We have a winner. There's some space in between that. Alright. So we're just gonna output our message at the top of our form. So you're gonna say if message, and we're gonna output a message, and if, and we put in this message. Alright, So yep, we are now complete. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna try to do some styling to see if we could get it to look the way we want it to look. All right, so let's get into that now. Let's see if we could style it up a bit. So one of the first things we want to do is we're gonna set the background maybe to gray. I honestly not following, can't remember what I did before. Let's set the background to gray. Let that be the first thing we do. So we can set the background to gray. Right? Oh, that's kind of a gray. So we're doing styling now, right? And let's give it a container. Let's put everything within a container. So we're gonna say div. I'm gonna call it TCT container, tic-tac-toe container, and we're gonna give that some styling. TCT container. We're gonna say the min height should be around 500 px. We're gonna imagine auto. I think what this does is centers it, right? So let's test that out one time. Oh, that's not happening. So we say display inline block. Maybe that helps. No. We give it a width 100%. Well, no, that's fine. Text align center. Oh, we get something to work. All right. So for our table, what can we do for our table? We want to make our table really big. So let's see if we could work on that. We'll work on centering it after. T table. TCT is the table, right? Yes. So TD, I think I can do that. Let me just say pattern 20px. So let's see how that looks. Yeah. Alright, so next, next thing is we want the text to be really large inside our form. So let's give our form a class, TCT form. We're going to say TCT form. We want the font size to be about 30px. So let's check that out and see what happens. Not exactly what I was looking for. Oh, TCT button. Alright, so that's more like it. Well, okay. And we want to fix the select as well. So let's touch the select. So we want to select to be font size of 50. That's better. All right, so just doing some more styling here. We want right. We want to put some space in between that button. So we can do that. For the TCT form, we can give it a background, maybe. Give it a a light background, and give it a border. See if we could center it. Alright, so we now have it centered. We want some padding on the form as well, so maybe give it a padding of 20 px. Alright, and so maybe we want to touch our H3 element. We want to give that a font size of maybe 50. Yeah, that's better. Alright, so and finally we wanna, so something we didn't do is we wanna start a new game. So we would have a button on top here saying start new game. The type of this is gonna be submit. The name is gonna be start. And all this is gonna do is gonna reset our board, which means we need a default board. Again, you don't have to do it like this, but we're going to create a default board so we can reset our board. So default board, and when we click new game, you do see the redundancy there, right? But we're just going to do it like that. I know that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Anyway, so when we press start, we should be able to start a new game. So let's reload that. We want some space in between that start game. Oh, that's not enough space. That's better. So when you press start new game, we can start a new game. We can end our turn, start a new game. O, and then I press X, and then I press O, and then I say I'm gonna play here, and I press O. We have a winner, right? So we want to style this as well. So we have a winner. We're gonna put a class on this, and we're gonna say this is, what can we call this? We could call it message class, TIC TAC message. So this is the message class, and we're just gonna give it some styling. Yeah, I'm copying across this because I want it exactly as is. Right, so that's our message styling, and now let's see what it looks like. So one of the things is if we try to submit a message twice, we should get can't play more than once. This actually looks good. I'm not too sure why it's there, so let's put it within the form, see if that helps. Don't know why it's showing there. Actually looks really good how it is. So if I play more than once and try to end the turn, so this is good. It's in display inline. It shouldn't say that. Alright. So we try to play more than once and we press that, right? Can't play more than once. So this is great. So our message shows up and we should be able to see who the winner is. It should show up. There we have a winner. The winner is 0. That is wrong. The winner is actually X. Don't tell me I'm gonna have to check this again. Let's try that again. Not too sure what went on there. Let's just assume we didn't press start new game, so we had some old data somewhere there. That's what we're gonna go with, because I don't know how that happened. Nope, that's not the problem. So the winner is 0. Let's keep coming up. Let's go back into our logic. Maybe trying to be fancy, but it's not the smartest idea. If last is equal to 0, so here's my fancy logic again. So let's do the long way, which says if last is equal to 1, the winner is equal to X, else if last is equal to 0, the winner is equal to 0. Alright, so the winner is, and we can just put winner here. Alright, so let's run that again. Start a new game. We start with 0. We say X is going to try to be a hero, and 0 goes there, and then X says we play there, and then 0 says we come here for some reason, and X says we go there. The winner is X. Alright, great. So we are good to go there. And yeah, our thing is pretty styled properly. We're not going to do anything else. So we are now officially completed with this tutorial. Thanks for watching. Check out the other videos. We have a lot of small baby mini projects that you can check out. Alright, I'm out.